everybody? Frank, do we know if Dot and Jeff have electricity?
As far as I know, that everybody has electricity.
Okay.
I talked to Jeff this morning. He said they were turned off.
Okay.
But you have it, Terry.
Yeah, we haven't been shut down up here at all.
We haven't either.
No.
You kind of look
Yeah,
like,
we're without power.
oh, there you
Yeah.
go. Good.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm on the Memorial Hospital grid.
I'm on Penn Grove Fire Department. We don't get shut down.
Whoops, somebody just froze. Maybe it was me.
All right, so it looks like we're just missing
Yeah.
Mariana.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I saw your picture in the paper somewhere. I don't remember where, but was it in the Press Democrat in the last week?
Most wanted.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It was you and your
Yeah,
dog.
Yeah, they ran a picture. They didn't want to hear what I had to say.
I
Who
noticed.
does?
I noticed that they didn't quote you. They just had your picture. They just like your dog.
Yeah, they interviewed me for about 20 minutes, but I don't think they wanted to hear what I had to say or print what I had to say.
All right, looks like we're all here, so just want to make sure everybody's audio and visual is working, right?
You know, Jordan, you're really shot in the dark.
I know I've got the light on up here, but
Okay.
it's the location that I'm at.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. So Terry, you're good. Maggie, Dawn, you're good. Your audio works and everything.
Yeah.
Yep, we should be there.
All right. Dot, Jeff,
Yep.
Mariana. There she is. All right.
I've been here. You just didn't see me. I'm like,
We see you. We see you now.
All right, why don't you go ahead and I'll turn it over to, let's see, do we have anything? Let me just look at the order of operations. All right, so we're just going to start straight off with the hiring and retention process to support diversity, equity, and retention. I'll turn it over to Frank.
Thank you, President Burns, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited today to present to you first, and I think a series of conversations about our hiring and retention practices. Our goal with this report is to highlight initiatives that the college has taken, over the past few years to increase diversity and identifying areas where SRJC has historically done well, and also to identify areas where we would like to see continued improvement. We hope by reviewing the historical data for employee demographics, and this goes back 20 years from the year 2000 to 2019, really 19 years, we can identify areas and strategies for improving employee diversity at the college across all ethnic groups and backgrounds. I want to thank all of those who collaborated in putting this report together, including human resources and institutional research, the many faculty, classified, and managers who have given their input to support these efforts, the Black Student Union and other student groups for holding us accountable and seeking continued improvement where it comes to increasing diversity at the college. As a reminder how this conversation began, on June 5th, 2020, Chancellor Eloy Oakley in the California Community College Chancellor's Office implemented a call to action for the California community colleges to strategize and take actions against structural racism. The call to action was implementing following the tragic death of George Floyd in May of 2020. In response to the call to action, the Board of Trustees at SRJC approved resolution number 15-20 in support of solidarity with the Black and African American community and commitment to greater equity and anti-racism at its June 2020 meeting, demonstrating its commitment to uphold the vision, mission, and values of the college. The mission of Santa Rosa Junior College is to cultivate learning through the creative, intellectual, physical, social, emotional, aesthetic, and ethical development of our diverse community. The values of the college include diversity that supports honesty and integrity, an environment of collegiality and mutual respect, and compassion that includes civic engagement, opportunities that contribute to real-world problem solving, and empathy to identify the challenges and address the needs of others. So if you could see here, our district commitment to hiring procedures, strategic plan, our EO plan. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our interim Vice President of Human Resources, Sarah Hopkins, to go over the report with you. We'd like for her to go over the report for you to take notes and then to open it up for questions at the end of our presentation, which should take about 10 to 15 minutes. So Sarah, I want to turn it over to you, and thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work on this plan. And as I said, this is the beginning point, not the end point, to begin the conversation and strategies for how to improve how we do hiring at SRJC. Sarah, you're on.
Thank you, Dr. Chong, and good afternoon, everyone. Media Services, if you could please go to the next slide with the board request. So the board requested that the district provide an overview on the district's practices regarding employee outreach, hiring, and exit interviews. You also asked for a summary of the district's initiatives and successes. We will also cover areas in need of improvement and ideas for new initiatives. And lastly, recommendations for areas where the board can support hiring and retention efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the district. This report will address the request from the board by providing information regarding the district's hiring and retention practices. I will outline our practices and highlight initiatives and successes, share our employee demographic data, and provide suggestions for improvement. I'm honored to present an overview of our hiring and retention report at this listening session, and I appreciate the board's interest in reviewing the district's efforts in these areas. Human Resources works closely with the Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee and our college community to implement the district's hiring and retention practices. We recognize that improvements have been made in our practices, and we also realize that we can do better. I'm looking forward to reviewing our practices in collaboration with our college community for areas where we may be able to improve. I would like to thank Greg Drukala in Institutional Research for his efforts in preparing the following charts. His technical skills and efficiency were critical to the success of this report. Please note that throughout this report, I will refer to DEI to reference diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism efforts. In the past 20 years, the district has made steady progress in increasing diversity of faculty and staff of color. This chart shows our overall increase in non-white employees from 10% to 25% since 2000. This is not displayed in this particular chart, but the majority of the district's employees are female, increasing from approximately 55% to 59% from 2000 to 2020. These increases are due in part to the retirement of employee groups of our aging population over the last 20 years. With these retirements, we have had the opportunity for diversifying our college community. This next slide highlights the ethnic composition of all employees when comparing 2000 to 2010 and 2019. As you can see, our Latinx employees have nearly doubled since 2009, and our Asian employees have nearly doubled since 2000. For our next chart, we have a comparison of data by employee groups from 2000 to 2010 and 2019. It's worth noting that we have seen the most significant increases in non-white employees from 2010 to 2019 since Dr. Chung joined SRJC. Classified professionals and management team represent the highest increase of non-white employees with a 22% increase in classified and a 23% increase in management team. For full-time faculty, we have seen a 15% increase, and the smallest increase has been with our adjunct faculty at 10%. Our next chart compares the non-white ethnicity data for full-time faculty to adjunct faculty in 2000 to 2010 and 2019. For full-time faculty, I would like to mention that the district hired 34 new faculty who started this fall. This group of new faculty represent 38% non-white faculty, including 23% Hispanic new faculty hires. These new hires have not yet been incorporated since the data only reflects employees hired as of last year's MIS reporting data, which is pulled late fall of every year. We will be looking forward to seeing how our new hires have contributed towards our efforts of hiring faculty of color. Our next chart compares non-white ethnicity for management team to classified professionals in 2000 to 2010 and 2019. Classified professionals have the largest percentage of African and African American employees of all employee groups. Our last chart is what I consider to be the most interesting chart, as it compares SRJC students and employees to Sonoma County residents. This chart shows that the district employs a higher percentage of Black, Asian, and American Indian and Alaska Native employees compared to the percentages of SRJC students and Sonoma County residents. On the donut charts, this is noted by the slices in red, dark green, and light green at the top of each chart. SRJC students and Sonoma County residents include more than double Latinx individuals than there are SRJC employees. And the rate of increase for Latinx employees at SRJC has almost doubled since 2010, whereas there's been a slower rate of increase for Latinx SRJC students and Sonoma County residents. This data highlights the need for the district to consider how our hiring and retention practices can be improved in order to continue diversifying our employees, to expedite our progress towards having similar representation of all ethnicities compared to our students and the communities that we serve. Next, I am proud to share our current hiring practices and highlight the initiatives and successes that the district has implemented over the past several years to increase our DEI efforts. We have collaborated with our college community to implement these initiatives, and our successes would not be possible without the support of our community. I would like to specifically recognize Susanna Sidney, the district's manager of employment equity, for her collaboration with the Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee and spearheading many of these efforts. Starting with our hiring and outreach practices, the district advertises all external recruitments in a wide variety of sources in order to attract a diverse pool of candidates for employment opportunities. We have recently incorporated new advertising sources, including Handshake, an online advertising venue for students and recent graduates, as well as several sources to attract Black and African American candidates, such as the historically Black colleges and universities, along with other sources. To highlight an initiative in this area, I would like to share the faculty recruitment program, which was implemented in fall 2016 in collaboration with our Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee, with support from our Career Hub and our instructional deans and faculty. We sponsored open house events to provide candidates with information about employment opportunities at the district and the opportunity to meet representatives in hiring departments. This year, EEOAC also worked with representatives from the district to attend graduate student recruiting events at CSU East Bay and University of California, Berkeley. We ended up hiring 2 candidates who attended the UC Berkeley event with our fall faculty hires, one of which was a faculty of color. Moving on to our hiring processes, Human Resources works with hiring committees and administrative interviewers to develop standards to assess a candidate's commitment to diversity and the initial screening process, as well as at all levels of interviews. We provide orientations for all hiring committees to include legal basis for fair hiring practices, understanding unconscious bias, and the importance of hiring equity-minded faculty to support student success. Our Community Monitor program is an example of an initiative that was implemented in 2013 as a recommendation that came from Dr. Chong and a group of faculty who reviewed our hiring procedures to make recommendations for improvement. Trained monitors were appointed to hiring committees to ensure fair hiring practices. Monitors are empowered to address issues of bias, breaches of confidentiality, and/or violations of hiring procedures in consultation with human resources. Next, I will highlight our professional development and retention programs. Our Embracing a Culture of Inclusion program represents a significant initiative that was implemented in 2016. This program has been a personal commitment for me to support the district's DEI efforts. I worked with a group of faculty classified in management to create this program to promote an inclusive work environment. We received the Outstanding Program Award for the California Community College Council for Staff and Organizational Development in spring 2018 to recognize this program. Introductory inclusion trainings have been offered at PDA days, new hire orientations, and with other groups. A series of building community workshops provided an opportunity for group discussions to build trust and to improve inclusion and retention in the workplace. Our most recent project has been named the SRJC Oak Tree Project, where members of our college community created a piece of art which resulted in an oak tree with leaves to express how individuals prefer to be appreciated in the workplace. This art is installed in the Bertolini Associates Lounge, and I hope that you will check it out. Another initiative that was made a significant impact on our retention efforts is our Leadership Academy. This was implemented in 2016. This program was developed and implemented in collaboration with Human Resources and members of the Professional Development Committee. The main purpose of the Academy was to develop leaders at SRJC and to provide opportunities to increase retention of faculty and staff. Many individuals who have participated in this program have since been successful in taking on leadership roles at the district. For new faculty, we offer a solid array of programs with the intent of welcoming new colleagues in order to retain the faculty who are hired. This includes a new faculty orientation, a one-year new faculty experience program, and a new faculty mentoring program. Each program offers professional development on topics related to DEI. The Professional Development Committee, as well as many other professional learning groups at the district, have offered a variety of activities over the years to support our DEI efforts. Many of the recent plenary sessions and workshops at PDA have been focused on topics related to DEI, and ongoing programming is also offered on these topics. To conclude this portion of the presentation, I would like to share the following additional highlights. From 2012 to 2017, each year, SRJC received honor roll distinction in the Chronicle of Higher Education Great Colleges to Work For recognition program. We were the only community college in California to have this recognition. In fall 2018, the Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee sponsored a diversity and inclusion climate survey for all employees and students. The results are aiding in decisions around developing future initiatives and process improvements in the areas of DEI and improving the culture and climate at the district. And lastly, SRJC received the Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award from Insight into Diversity in 2019 and again this fall. This award recognizes colleges and universities that demonstrate an outstanding commitment to DEI. The last part of this presentation will include recommendations for improvement. We are continuously reviewing our hiring practices as well as best practices at other institutions recognized for their DEI efforts to ensure that our hiring practices are relevant, inclusive, and meaningful. Susanna Sidney and our recruiting team conducted research this summer on best practices at educational institutions who are recognized for their DEI efforts in order to inform these recommendations. We also welcome feedback from our college community on suggestions for improvement, and we understand that this is just the beginning of this conversation. Our first recommendation is to revise district hiring practices, starting with training hiring committees to dispel the deficit model recruiting notion by creating hiring practices that attract diverse candidates and valuing diversity in the hiring process. Rather than assuming that there may not be a sufficient pool of qualified and diverse candidates, or that diverse candidates will not be selected in the hiring process, or that they'll choose not to work at SRJC, we should consider how to shift and revise our practices to ensure that we can attract diverse candidates. A redesign of the hiring process is recommended to modify our approach to becoming a candidate-ready college by encouraging rather than discouraging candidates to consider choosing SRJC for their careers. We will also be reviewing additional targeted outreach, networking, and strategic partnership efforts with educational institutions with a recommendation to redesign department and district web pages to demonstrate the district's commitment to diversity. In terms of our hiring procedures, we are also recommending a review of district hiring procedures to include recommendations such as diversification of screening and selection committee members and inclusion of students in the hiring process to ensure that we hire equity-minded faculty. This review will be conducted with input from appropriate constituent groups, such as the Academic Senate, Classified Senate, and the Management Team Liaison Group. Lastly, we will develop standards for hiring committees to encourage inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness, such as de-emphasizing preferred qualifications like a doctorate degree, which can tend to have an adverse impact on candidates of color. In order to provide support and opportunity for our employees, it is recommended that the district implement mentoring, internship, and leadership programs for all employee groups where these programs do not already exist. This work will need to be done in collaboration with the appropriate shared governance groups to agree on the development and implementation of these programs. Human Resources will also develop resources for hiring departments to take an active role in mentoring new hires, in navigating the SRJC culture, and we will develop a check-in process for new hires regularly to support them in their employment needs. And lastly, we will review our exit interview process to modify the existing process to allow for meaningful feedback and processes for addressing areas of concern. For our last recommendation, before we get to the board recommendations, in order to improve our professional development programming, we are working on developing ongoing training on DEI topics and to incorporate this training into our new hire orientations, mentoring programs, and to be offered district-wide. It is also recommended that this training be negotiated as mandatory for all district employees. In order to facilitate this programming, it is recommended that we institutionalize our Embracing a Culture of Inclusion program by formalizing the collaboration between ECI and the Professional Development Committee to provide support on implementing ongoing programming and retention efforts. The last part of the board's request was to provide recommendations for the board to support hiring and retention efforts to promote DEI. Following are these recommendations. The current district EEO plan includes a goal for the Board of Trustees to receive training on elimination of bias in hiring and employment every 2 years beginning this fall. The board should also consider participating in additional training related to DEI and other topics. With the recommendations that will be made to revise board policies and procedures on hiring and faculty equivalency, the board's support will be needed to implement the recommendations that are pursued. These recommendations will be intended to increase hiring of diverse candidates by working with the Academic Senate, the Classified Senate, and Management Team to implement revisions to the hiring and equivalency procedures. Lastly, in an effort to require a collegial work environment of inclusion, respect, trust, and professionalism, it is recommended that the board consider implementing a board policy to address these expectations. This would apply to all constituent groups, district practices, and communications to hold our college community accountable. This recommendation will support the district's values in our strategic plan to support honesty and integrity in an environment of collegiality and mutual respect, and empathy to identify the challenges and address the needs of others. We must be willing to shift our culture in order to expect positive change.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And I just want to make some concluding remarks before we open up for questions. You know, as you can see, SRJC has made great strides in increasing diversity since 2000, but we also have a long way to go, as you can see. Our goal is to implement the recommendations that Sarah outlined and to work alongside our dedicated faculty, classified professionals, and students with the support of the board to make the structural and procedural changes necessary to bring in and retain more employees of diverse backgrounds. Our college community should reflect the community in which we serve, and we hope that with your support, our continuing commitment, we will do just that. We're not perfect, but I think we clearly have made some progress and we have a long ways to go. The purpose of this report was really to give not just the board, but the college community kind of a baseline in terms of where we're at and where we need to go. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to President Burns to facilitate questions and answers to both Sarah and myself. And thank you for your attention. And particularly thank you, Sarah, for the many hours you put into this presentation. Clearly, your hard work shows. So I appreciate that very much. President Burns?
All right, thank you. And thank you, Sarah. What I'd like to do is, so the next on the agenda, we have public comments and then board discussion after that. I will open it for public comment right now to see if we have any public comments, but I'll just let folks know that, if there's public comments after the board discussion, I'd be more than happy to open it up then as well. So I'll just, and for public comments using the raise your hand function, I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me, but if you're calling in, it's like *9 or something like that. So let's see here. All right, we've got one. I believe it's Rhonda. Rhonda Finley.
Thank you, Jordan, and members of the board. And I appreciate all the detailed information, Sarah. I just have a couple things to say. One is I think we really need to do a better job in terms of retaining diverse faculty, and I'm glad to see that there's some efforts happening there, because we've lost a couple of specifically African American faculty who were very popular with students, and I think it's because we didn't have the best climate, and I'm not going to go into detail on that, but that's all I'll say about that. Secondly, given that we have a vetting process about making sure candidates or faculty candidates have diverse commitment to diversity and equity, I would like it to be investigated as to why we ended up, if you saw the Oak Leaf article, hiring a white supremacist on our campus. How did that happen? How can we make sure that doesn't happen again? Lastly, I'd like to say that colleges throughout the country have implemented something called the Faculty Diversity Internship Program. Former employee and myself, Brian Pfeiffer, researched and developed a proposal. I want to say back in 2012, it's a proven method of increasing faculty diversity. When we were dinged in an accreditation report about, I'm going to say 10, 12 years ago, for being so out of balance in terms of faculty diversity with our student population. And so we developed that proposal and we met with, at the time, Mary Kay and other folks, and I've brought it up numerous times and it keeps getting shelved, basically. And that's disappointing to me, because it's a proven method that other colleges have used for increasing faculty diversity. It's called the Faculty Diversity Internship Program. And so I would like to know why it keeps getting shelved, and if the district would consider looking at that again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. I've got Brenda Flies-with-Hawks up next. Maybe.
There she is.
Got to unmute yourself, Brenda.
My apologies. I didn't realize I was muted. Thank you. So very quickly here, President Burns, Board of Trustees, I wanted to thank you and Dr. Chong and Sarah for putting together this listening session. Thank you for everything that has just been presented. I especially appreciated the recommendations for the board's involvement. And I wanted to thank colleague Rhonda Findling for her comment. She actually said a couple of things that I was going to comment on. I won't repeat those, but I do want to reiterate her comment regarding faculty diversity internship program. That was something that I wanted to call to your attention. And I want to say that I was also involved with that on the peripheral, and then specifically in certain areas. And it's an effective program, and I would encourage, again, for our HR and then for our Board of Trustees to look at this closely as a possibility of returning it back and how we could implement it into our college here. The second comment that I want to make has to do with the recruitment and retention. And I'll just encourage us to please, as we go forward, talking about how we can get better at improving our BIPOC faculty hires here at the college. Let's please, we've got to look at that. We get them here. Recruitment's important, retention second. And I appreciate the statistics that Sarah gave. In the fall 2020 new hires, 38% non-white faculty were hired. However, that means 62% white faculty were hired. So the 62% is what we have to pay attention to and look at how do we bring that more into balance. And then finally, my final comment is, again, regarding the recommendations. I just want to know what's the plan for implementing the recommendations. So recommendations are only as good as we implement them. And then I want to know how specifically will our HR hold the individual hiring committees responsible for all the things that Sarah has outlined. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Any other public comments at this time? I don't see any, so I will go ahead and open it up to the rest of the board. And if I'll just remind the board members, if you could use the, again, the raise the hand function, that'll allow it to pop up there. And then I can then call on you if you have any questions of Sarah or any of the rest of the, Frank or the administration.
Where's the raise the hand function?
On
participants?
I think it's on participants.
Yeah, Jordan, I'm not finding it on mine either.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it used to be down at the bottom, but it's not there anyways. We'll just, looks like Maggie found it.
I found it on participants, Jeff, down at the bottom where it says invite, mute me, raise hand.
All right, there you go. So you got to open the participant window, I guess. I
got you. Okay.
You can, if you can't find it, just naturally raise your hand. I can see you also. All right, Maggie.
Well, I just really want to thank Sarah for her very complete report. It was much appreciated, and also my prior questions that I had asked you sort of peppered you with some questions as well. To sort of get to what maybe was voiced in the public comments, we just hired a number of people, and I was wondering if there were any new criteria, new policies or processes that you went through with the new hires that you hadn't done before, that is an example of the direction we're moving in. Was the outreach a little different? Were the interviews different? Were the development of the questions different? I was just wondering, since we sort of have a close case study of lots of hires, I was wondering what was different.
Yeah, the outreach was a little bit different in that we implemented our efforts with the program where we reached out to other institutions to have our representatives go there and talk to their students. That was the collaboration that I talked about with the CSU and with UC Berkeley. That was new for us this year. And like I said, we actually ended up hiring a couple of candidates from the Berkeley event So I would say that that was a success. We also attended a DEI conference in spring of 2018, and we recommended some changes to our process based on that conference. One of which was changing up the prompt for the diversity statement that candidates submit in the application process. We worked with the Academic Senate to revise the prompt to see if we could get closer to the kind of information that hiring committees would find meaningful in being able to evaluate candidates during the screening process. And then also with that, we revised our hiring orientation to incorporate quite a significant section on the importance of hiring equity-minded faculty and why hiring committees should consider that throughout their process. So those were the main changes that I would say we did different this year. In terms of the new faculty coming on board, we've also worked closely with the faculty professional development coordinators to incorporate relevant topics into the new hire faculty orientation and the mentoring program. One idea that we incorporated from that same DEI conference was to include a student panel in the new faculty orientation, where students would, on the day one, they tell the faculty what they need to feel like it's an equitable environment for them as students. And we do intend on continuing that effort.
I have more, Jordan, but I'll wait. The rest of it.
Jeff, did you have a question, or were you just looking for the raise the hand function?
Yeah, I still don't see it. I'm on the mute button and the arrow up, but it doesn't show raise the hand. So I'll just turn on the speaker when I have a question. First off, Sarah, thanks for the great presentation. That was very well done. A couple comments on that. I was encouraged to see from 2010 to 2019 the diversification that it is. It has actually tremendously increased, which I think is very positive. What I was surprised though to see when you compared it to the county average of population, where it wasn't the same, which that was surprising to me. But I can see that, we've been doing the right steps have been happening. There is still, of course, room for improvement, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the diversification, the growth of diversification. Is there a way, this is a public forum, is there a way to get those charts out to the population, the college population, that they can see that? Because I know we're always getting comments about such topics, and to have, the most recent update, the increases, while it's not a perfect world, and I understand that, but, as you all know, by a lot of the emails we get and the complaints and everything, it's like we're going backwards, but I don't see us going backwards. I think that this is a positive move forward, but to show that there has been, a movement on that. So I don't know how you could communicate that. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so I prepared a 9-page report to support this listening session. It was attached to the board item. Within that report, there's a link to the charts. And there's actually quite a few options that you can go through to select different employee groups, different ways of looking at the data. So the link to those charts is within the report. And we can get that out to you all in a different manner if that's better, but it's definitely accessible to the college community. And they should, we hope people will take a closer look to see how things are going and to make suggestions for improvement.
That's great. That's good. A couple other things I have. Sarah, is there a way, and I don't know if this is relevant or not, with those charts and see with other quote like schools, with the state averages of employment of other, diversifications? I don't know if that does us any good, but just to see where we are in relationship to other schools. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, the Chancellor's office may even have something like that, but we could definitely look into that to see if that's something that we can provide.
Yeah, that's something.
I mean, we're always.
That's something that George Salou, one of our faculty members, expressed at a meeting at the Academic Senate, that we should look at similar type institutions and compare ourselves to see if we're ahead, behind, about the same, So I think I'll work with Sarah and see if we could ferret out those like districts, or even maybe districts close to us, like Napa, College of Marin, and Mendocino, to see how they're doing relative to us, or like-sized colleges as well. I think that's a great suggestion, Jeff, and we'll follow up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we compare ourselves whenever we're looking at doing things like salaries or everything. We always kind of compare ourselves to other schools. So this was one I would be interested in seeing. Could you also talk to me? I know a couple people mentioned this faculty intern program. I am not aware of that. Could you explain that to me a little bit? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the other trustees are not either.
Yeah, so this is the idea. Back in the day, we had a collaboration with, I think it was Sac State, Sonoma State, and Santa Rosa Junior College, where candidates who had not yet completed their degrees had an opportunity to be in the classroom with existing faculty to learn what it was like to teach in a community college environment. And the way that we worked it out at the time is the interns received a stipend for their service, and the faculty were paid, as if they were teaching the class in order to participate. And like Rhonda mentioned, we've talked about it for many years. The last time we looked into it, it was a cost issue at the time in terms of what it would take to implement a program like that, to pay the interns, to pay the faculty. Not to say that it's insurmountable, but the Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee does have this program on their agenda this year to review, to see if it's something that we can implement.
How do the I guess the student not student faculty, but the student interns or whatever that help out in the classroom, how would they feel about this? Is that cutting into them participating, or, because I think it's a good idea. I like the idea of it, but does that cut into the what's the term I'm looking for? The students, student aides or whatever to the teachers.
Like the instructional assistants?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, instructional assistants are doing different work than faculty are doing. So the interns would be students who are specifically pursuing a degree so that they can teach in a community college environment. Not to say that instructional assistants couldn't be eligible for that type of opportunity, but it's, a decision as to whether or not they want to do that kind of work.
Well, it sounds like a great program if we can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's all I have, but it was a very good presentation. Oh, one other comment I had, and it's just throwing it out there. I noticed you said board training on hiring, the biases of hiring and stuff. And and I get that, but the board doesn't hire people. I guess the only person the board hires is the president. But
Jeff, the board serves on certain committees, particularly for high-level administrators. So
okay, that's true. Yeah.
I think
committees. Yeah, that makes sense.
It would be good to see for a number of levels. One is to get the type of training so that you could see what the faculty receive and the type of training they receive in terms of non-bias. And then for those limited number of committees where board members serve, I think it would be beneficial. Right. So for those two reasons,
yeah, that makes sense.
I think it would be great for the board to participate in that. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, that's all I've got. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I've got a trustee Battenfeld.
I also want to thank Sarah and your staff, and it sounds like Susanna did a lot of data collecting, and it was just a really thorough report, and I really liked having the written report and all the links in it, as well as just being able to have a discussion and hear what's going on. And I appreciate a lot of the recommendations, and I'm really looking forward to being able to, move forward on some of them. Some of the things like maybe more consistent ways we do hiring in terms of diversity, and, diversifying the hiring committees, I know are some things people have been talking about for a long time, and it was nice to see those in recommendations. One of the things, and I don't know if you're already collecting data on this, but it would be nice to see. I mean, we just did this big hiring for fall. So we have a big cohort of people, and it'd be interesting to see how many applicants we got and the demographics of the original applicant pool and how people fell out, before the final. I mean, like, did we have a much higher group of BIPOC applicants or not? If we did they fall out at a certain point? Just in terms of looking at what we're using for our preferred qualifications, and that might be good. I mean, again, you may be doing it already, but to me, that would be good data that for me to see, especially since we did have such a big group this time to look at.
Yeah, we have that data compiled, and we could share it in an aggregate form. And just an interesting point of fact is that our percentage of non-white applicants who initially applied for those recruitments was slightly lower than the percentage that we hired.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. And then the other thing, I guess at some point, maybe as we move forward and looking at mentoring and strengthening our mentoring, questions about like, when we do mentoring, do we do it within department or do we try to go outside department so we have more like cohort kinds of mentoring? And I was also thinking, like, do we have, we talked about the internship programs. Do we have like any kind of internship programs if we're hiring maybe people without PhDs? Do we have support programs to help people earn PhDs once they're here? Is that part of the mentorship program? And I don't know, just kind of, again, things that other people probably know more the details of, but those are just kind of things I'm hearing also from other colleges that are helpful. But yeah, and I know this is the beginning, and I, like Dr. Fleiswick said, I'm really looking forward to moving forward and implementing and monitoring how we're doing in the next year. So thanks.
Yeah.
So as far, oh, go ahead, Dr. Chong.
It's my hope that taking this report and working together with the Academic Senate and the Classified Senate, that we could maybe make some changes by the end of this calendar year. So if we could spend the rest of the fall semester looking at the recommendations. According to the board policy manual, faculty hiring isn't something that the board oversees. They work collectively and jointly with the Academic Senate, as they should. So I think there's a lot of sense of urgency, and there's also a sense of unity in terms of wanting to make improvements. So I'm fairly confident, but by year end, that's my goal. It may be a little later, but I think it's better to have it sooner than later, that we can come together with a package that Sarah can bring to you that has the support of the Academic Senate for hiring for faculty, and also a meeting with the classified folks around hiring of classified and managers as well. So I think we would work with the three constituent groups and try to develop some uniform hiring practices that would help move us forward. So that's my hope, and that's my plan, to come to you with a progress report, at least by December, of how far we've gotten.
Perfect. Trustee Martinez?
Hi, everybody. I got cut off, so if somebody asked this, I'm sorry. One of my questions was, what is the percentage of faculty of color that have the PhD versus our white faculty that do not? Because we keep on saying that there's an impediment, and for someone who did her dissertation on Latinas PhDs, I know that there is a lot of them out there. I'm just wondering what that actually looks like in terms of the number of current faculty that have PhDs versus those that do not have PhDs, and how many of those are actually people of color versus not. So that was one of the questions. The other question I had was, it's twofold. One of them is, when we talk about classified staff, what does that mean? What is the job title? And exactly where is it that we're increasing the number of people of color as hires? So, I mean, is classified staff include our janitorial all the way to an administrative assistant? And the same thing with management. Is there different levels of management? Like I just saw with one of our deans, he's went to dean to executive dean. So does that make them an equivalent to a coordinator as management? So those are just, again, questions to really desegregate what we're looking at. And the other part of it too is when we say we increase from 11% to 24%, what is the raw number? Because, you know, like for myself, again, when I went into a graduate program, there was 2 Latinas with 1 more. It just like, you know, 2 more, it's like it's a 50% increase. So yay, but the reality is there's only 4 of us. So those are kind of questions that I'm asking as a bulk, but that are really important as we look at the actual data to see exactly what that means, because, you know, that one person, and it impacts our retention, because we can say, oh, we have 30%, but that 30% is literally 3 people. And, you know, and somebody of color who's coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to see 30%. And it's like, oh, but it's 30% like 3 people. So those are really important questions for me. And again, my dissertation dealt with some of this stuff as part of recommendations, not even for faculty, but just to retain them in graduate programs, right? So it's just critical, and it's also part of some of what Dr. Morrison and our sociology professor, who I cannot remember his name, the letter that he sent out to us prior to the meeting. And I think it goes hand in hand in some of those things. So we might not have the data right now, but if we kind of desegregate and really break it down, including with our, when we talk about even our Asian American groups, like, who are they? Like, desegregate that information, because it's very helpful for us to say, hey, like, yeah, you might have this community, but it not be the same, especially when we talk about our African American populations. If our high numbers here are African, right? Like they are Eritrean and so on, and we're hiring African Americans, it's a whole distinct culture. So again, very nitty gritty, but very important for me to just sort of be able to communicate to our community as well outside of the JC.
Well, I appreciate Trustee Martinez, your doctorate lens in looking at disaggregating data. So we can get you that data. As it relates to PhDs and doctorates, it's been a general recommendation that because we're a community college institution, that we shouldn't require doctorates, should not require doctorates as a preferred qualification, because typically we know that the number of doctorates held by people of color is much smaller percentage in number than those who are white. So that is one of the things that I've learned about hiring practices at colleges and talking to other college presidents, is to not kind of raise the bar even higher to cut out people, but the minimum quals, to stick with those as closely as possible. But we'll get you the breakdown as much as we can find it. Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. Trustee Fishman, did you have some more questions?
I did. I just, you know, a lot of people have sort of asked what I was going to ask or comment on what I wanted to comment on. It does, you know, how we achieve real change is really getting down to the nitty gritty. And we've touched on that, but I was wondering, my first question is, who sits on the EEOAC? That's a college, not a statewide group, right? That's a college group. And who sits on that, Sarah?
Yeah, there's both. We have one locally, and then we also have a statewide committee that Susanna Sidney, our manager of employment equity, is actually on. So she is a great resource for us in being able to participate in that statewide committee. Our local committee is standard shared governance group. So there's representatives from faculty, classified, and management, and students actually on that local committee.
And how often do they meet?
I believe they meet once a month, twice a month.
And their specific job is to do what?
Their purpose is to ensure that we have fair hiring practices, and that our employment practices at the district are non-discriminatory and upheld by those fair hiring practices.
So do they generate recommendations? Do they generate advocacy for change? Do they, I mean, is that where this work will be done?
Some of it, yeah. I mean, their work is focused on outreach, hiring, and retention. That's the specific role of that group. And the multiple methods report that that group produces each year covers how we meet the needs in those areas. And then depending on how we can show that we support those needs, that determines what level of funding that we get each year.
Okay. The reason I ask is there's a lot of committees that do overlapping tasks at the community college. And I think that part of it, if we really want to get this done and really get down to the core of what needs to happen, there has to be maybe a consolidation of some of these overlapping to save people time and energy as well, you know, who sit on a variety of committees, which is a thought. The other thing I want to ask about is just to tag on to the PhD conversation. It's right, when we are a teaching college, and I was wondering if there had been conversation also about equivalencies, and that you don't necessarily need a master's if you're going to teach welding or, you know, whatever. Or in hiring in any aspect. So what's going on with the equivalencies?
Yeah, so there are what we call vocational disciplines that don't require a master's degree for minimum qualifications, and welding is one of them. So in that instance, a candidate could qualify with an associate's degree and 6 years of experience, or a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience. They don't need a master's degree. Any instructional area, you know, English, math, all the other disciplines do require a master's degree, and there is an equivalency process for candidates who don't meet that requirement. One of our recommendations is to streamline the equivalency process so that applicants know what they need to do in order to make an equivalency request, and to provide a process that is streamlined for those applicants so it doesn't prevent them from pursuing employment at the district. And I know the Academic Senate Equivalency Committee is already working on those projects. They've done quite a bit of work this past year or two in trying to streamline the processes and revise the procedures, and we'll continue working with them on doing that.
Okay, and Sarah, when you look at this whole situation, what do you think is the biggest nut to crack? Where would you start? But what change would have the most impact?
In my opinion, the faculty hiring procedures would be the area that we will make the biggest impact. And I know that there's been conversations going on for several years now to revise those procedures. And I think now is the time to do it. And my recommendation would be we start with the faculty hiring procedures and then incorporate changes into classified and management hiring procedures so that we can do it across the board.
Did you get a good participation in the Embracing the Cultural Inclusion program?
We have had, yeah, we've had close to 300 participants so far in various trainings that we've offered. We're actually putting together a collaboration with that group to be able to have them work on some of these projects that we're making suggestions on. So when you talked about how is this feasible, the ECI group is going to be teams of people helping us with this effort. And so we're going to get ourselves organized in that regard in terms of working with those individuals.
So what would be really helpful, and this is, you know, since this is an ongoing process, and what I'm having a hard time understanding is exactly how change is made. So whether it's a flow chart, you know, who's in charge of what, who does what, because I think it's really important that we, in fact, create change. But I'm not sure exactly how all the processes meld together and it happens. Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, Maggie, that's an excellent question. And as you know, board oversees policy. And if you look at the policy of hiring at the college, it's really with the blessing of the board in terms of faculty and all hiring, whether it's the hiring of the president through the job announcement for the president's position, and for faculty and classified as well. So I think, as Sarah said, this is an opportune time during this call for action for the board to request of Sarah and I, as your representatives, so-called, as your agents, to work with the Academic Senate to develop some policy recommended changes for you to review. And my hope is that we could bring you something by the year end calendar year, so that this thing doesn't go on and on and on. And because there is urgency, as we've talked about, in the call for action, right? Not call for discussion, but I thought the first place to start was let's look at some fact finding. Let's look at some of the questions that Trustee Martinez is asking in terms of data. Let's look at other data questions that other faculty leaders have. And let's look at comparative data so that we could be data driven and not anecdotal driven. So anecdotal is important, but it's a combination, right, of anecdotal as well as quantitative and qualitative evidence. So to answer your question, what I'm hearing from the board is that we want to see action. Dr. Chong, please work with the Academic Senate and the classified folks to come together and bring some recommendations to the board by year end. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And if that's acceptable to the board, we will do that. And we'll come back to you at minimum in December and tell you how far we've gotten. And hopefully we would accomplish some significant consequential changes as a result of what we're talking about.
All right, perfect. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
So yeah, I've got one. So with what Dr. Chong just said, how do we move that forward? Do we need a motion at this meeting? Is this the right venue for that? So I'll turn it over to you, Jordan, on that. Because I think what Dr. Chong just said was good. How do we move that forward?
Well,
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, today we've got our listening session. So it's more of informing the board about the progress. I think that we already kind of laid out what we were looking for in our resolution that we previously passed. And that's what kind of moved the administration towards a step. So at this point, we would just, I think it's in agreement from all of the board members that this is definitely something that's needed, and we want the administration to continue moving forward down that, and then bring some recommendations back, November, December, sometime at a future meeting for us to take action on. Any other questions or discussion from the board? All right, I will go ahead and just reopen it over to public comments if anybody joined late or have any comments. So I've got Dr. Salou up first, so go ahead, Dr. Salou.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I think that there are a lot of things around. I'm glad that the board is supportive, and Dr. Chung said they were willing to make some moves here. But I'm just a little curious that we don't rush to make, to try to come up with a plan to present to the board that doesn't reflect actually what we want or what the students are asking for. So my only caution would be is that if we're going to review these things, that is based on a total overhaul of some of the policies, because we cannot use the same policies and expect a different result. The hiring policies we've used have given us a result that we're not happy with right now. So maybe we need to review those, we need to revisit those, maybe get rid of those, because we cannot hire differently with the old policies. It's not going to work. So my concern is that the policies themselves need to go away. Otherwise, we're just putting a Band-Aid to it and we'll end up at the same place. I want to caution the board that in 5 years, we'll be dealing with the issue of brown faculty and staff because our student population is shifting that direction. So we need to make, if we fix the policies now, we can address this once and for all. Otherwise, we'll be here again in 4 or 5 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Salou. Next up, I've got SRJC user, so I can go ahead and have a public comment, but I need you to, if you can state your name for the record, that would be great. And you would need to unmute yourself. Still can't hear you. So there we go. It looks like you're unmuted.
All right, this is Greg Granderson. I didn't know I was a SRJ user. I'm not sure how many of you know me. I worked at the college until 2011. During that time, I was the academic senate president under Brenda Flysworth Hawks, who, you know, as I've told people before, was my mentor. And I'm very, very glad to see that Sarah is still at the college. I thought she was one of the best people working there at the time, and I'm really glad that she's still there. But a couple of things that I need to make sure that we understand. I think it was 2008, maybe 2006. Santa Rosa Junior College got a grant from the Chancellor's office, and we were to do minority hiring, and we spent a week in the South attempting to recruit folks from the historical Black colleges. I think we actually spent about $30,000 or $40,000 between all of the reps that went from Santa Rosa. And we got zero hires from that. We did get a few applicants, but we hired absolutely no one. And the internship program sounds like a wonderful idea, except when we talked about this years ago, it ended up being a local hiring process. So unless you lived in Santa Rosa, Sonoma, where you could drive over, the program did absolutely nothing for, at least the concept, nothing for the idea of bringing new faculty, intern faculty who were not had not graduated from college yet. It turned into a local idea. Then we had trouble with the part-timers. Are the interns getting a step up for a hire while I'm teaching the same course as a part-timer for the last 10 years? I'll give you an example of the issue of the PhD. I sat on a committee at the college, and the department got an application from a person at Fisk University, which, in case you don't know where that is in Tennessee. And the people on the committee could not pronounce the name. And so they spent about 5 to 10 minutes discussing, do you know where Fisk University, I've never heard of that. The man who submitted his application did in fact have a PhD. They were wondering if in fact that this historical Black college was up to date. And when it came time to choose the candidates to interview, he was not chosen. And so I want to make it clear that a lot of the things that we're talking about boils down to the people in the interview. There was a large problem with bringing faculty from other departments. Could they vote? Could they not vote? And it appears to me from this is that we're starting down that same road. Now, I've been gone a long time, but this same discussion, it just brought the hair on the back of my neck, I have to tell you, because we hire or interview someone from a historical Black college, Atlanta. We give that individual a phone conversation for an interview, and then he or she has to fit the bill to come rent a car, airplane, hotel, hour interview, go home, find out you didn't get the job. I talked long enough. I'll stop there, but I want the board to hear, and I don't know if Brenda's still on, but when she had these issues, I definitely had them. Unless something internally has changed, you're going to be right back where you were. So thank you for the moments of being able to speak to you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you allowing some of us old, tired individuals to speak. And once again, I want to give a big compliment to Sarah. She's a great person and obviously a great presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Greg. Brenda, Flies with Hawks.
Thank you again, President Burns and trustees. I really have appreciated listening to you. I appreciate very specifically, excuse me, Trustee Fishman, some of your comments and question, and Battenfeld, all of you, Trustee Kunde, you've asked some very good questions. My request is please keep asking these questions. We really need you to keep asking the questions, and particularly those that you're thinking, as some of you indicated in your questions to Sarah, trying to understand, well, if we've been doing these things and if we did, what things. I love the question that you asked, Trustee Fishman, in regards to the last hiring for this fall 2020. What did we do different? And then what worked? And then the question that is always hard to go to is what didn't work and why didn't it work? And something, I again really appreciate, there's no one I believe works harder than our HR folks and Sarah. And yet we still don't know the answers. I really appreciate we don't know the answers as to why we can't recruit, we can't retain. So I appreciate the question also. It was, or the comment from the trustee about doing a comparison. We do need to look at other institutions. And I know, Sarah, we've had this conversation before and we've attempted, and we just need to really talk to other community colleges specifically. I think Dr. Chong mentioned Napa. Yes, let's really have a conversation with them, not an email, but let's have a conversation with them about what are you doing that works, but what did you do that didn't work and why do you think it failed, so that we can not do those things. My recommendation is, again, we need to look at policy. I appreciate my colleague, Greg Granderson, hearing him speak just prior to me and giving you very specific examples. The thing that I gleaned from his remarks specifically that I hope you'll pay attention to is the years ago that we experienced these things, and we're here today and it's 2020 and we're asking the same questions. And we're trying to still figure out some of the same things. Indeed, we have made a progress, and I appreciate how we've made an effort, our faculty, our trustees, our HR folks. So I do believe we have to just tear apart that the policies, anything that has to do with hiring faculty, recruitment, and retention. Second, I make a request and a recommendation years ago, and I mean decades ago, when I was first hired, they had a reception, they meaning the school, I believe it was actually my department, behavioral sciences, in collaboration with HR, and other disciplines, departments that put together, I'm not sure what it was called, a recruitment interest for hire reception. And there was a special invitation that were sent out to folks that individuals thought that they were interested in that applicant, and it was an opportunity, because what I was told, this is an opportunity for you to come and learn about us and see if you'd like to come and join us, and we would like to get to know you. And of course, that was in the old Senate chambers at that time. The building is gone now, but I can tell you, I still remember when I walked into that room, I could not believe the numbers of we call them people of color now, we've upgraded it to BIPOC people. But at that time, we were just folks that looked like me, and that looked like Greg Granderson, and that looked like George, and that looked like Louder Larquet. And I was amazed. And we had food, and we really did, they really did talk to us. Out of that, I got hired. And so did some of the other applicants that are not, they weren't applicants, but folks in the room. Now, I don't know if that would work now, but we have got to think out of the box. And so I'm suggesting that might we think about that, Sarah, Dr. Chong, and trustees, might we think of things like that and far reach beyond the borders of Sonoma County to invite folks to come. My third recommendation is, because I really like these listening sessions, and because hiring is a 10+1 and does come up under the Academic Senate purview, as you know, would you, trustees, consider having a listening session with the Academic Senate, or at least in minimal, the Academic Senate Executive Committee regarding hiring and regarding these suggested, thinking about policy change? So I invite you, and I ask that you strongly consider having a listening session with our Academic Senate regarding the 10+1 of hiring. Thank you again. I appreciate the time.
Of course. All right. Thank you, Brenda. And we have Amanda Morrison.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Board of Trustees, Dr. Chong. Thank you for this important discussion. I agree, listening sessions are actually really productive part of our emerging campus culture. I have a few points of feedback I'll try to detail and not take too much time. I mean, one is to say that I appreciate the kind of culture shift that Sarah intimated towards, about moving from like a deficit mindset, which would be in hiring, would be like, there just aren't enough people of color out there to fill these roles. And actually acknowledging, as my colleague Mariana Martinez mentioned, there actually are a lot of BIPOC PhDs and master's holders out there who are actually underemployed. We know this. We know that it's very difficult to land a full-time tenure line job. So the people are out there, and to take the stance that it's no longer an excuse to say that they're not out there, I think is an important move. Specifically, my ideas, some of them fall under the area of HR, and some of them very clearly fall under the area of faculty leadership, academic senate. I want us to put some attention on adjunct hiring. I mean, it's frankly quite sad that we have such a high number of adjuncts versus full-time faculty. That's true throughout higher ed. I believe it's like, what, 70% of all our classes are taught by adjuncts. And that's actually the widest population in our campus community. I think one concrete thing to look at is, and this is again faculty purview, our classes that are about race relations, or maybe the classes that are tagged under Area G in the GE AA pattern as ethnic studies-ish classes, maybe those should be set aside. Maybe we should have the conversation, should they be set aside as like area expertise, special expertise, to be taught by people who have a demonstrable record teaching essentially ethnic studies and race relations topics. Minimum quals and equivalency, I agree with colleagues. We need to really take a really focused look on how those articulated. What I've noticed happens, because I've tried to teach here too as a woman of color, I can't seem to make any headway. And part of the reason it seems to be that equivalency degree requirements and minimum quals are always written where you're supposed to have a degree in the same exact discipline as the department that's hiring. But guess what? That actually excludes most ethnic studies scholars because they are interdisciplinary. As well as under HR, I want to give a little feedback. I'm happy to rejoin the ECI effort, but as someone who's had a lot of adverse racial experiences here, you know, I want those efforts to have sort of more teeth and become more radical, honestly. I went to an ECI event where we didn't even talk about racism, and it really turned me off. I didn't understand what we were doing. And the breakout groups were all very self-congratulatory, and that culture really alienated me. And I know it does other people, as well as faculty hiring committees. I was part of a faculty hire committee, and and when we did the training, the faculty data, the racial data was not shown to us. And so there was a sense of non-urgency being conveyed. I think if we had seen the data and the overwhelmingly white faculty, I think there would have been a higher sense of urgency kind of driven through. So that definitely needs to be added to the faculty hiring committee training. That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've got another public comment. I just want to remind people, I'm being pretty lax and pretty lenient on the time restraints, but if we can keep the public comments to 3 minutes or less, because we do have to adjourn to closed session here in just a little bit. And so just keep that in mind. All right, Carrie Rigo.
Hello, thank you, President Burns and the board. I, Carrie Rigo, am an adjunct faculty member and a BIPOC woman of color, and Amanda Morrison's reference to approximately 70% of colleges are being taught by adjunct. I'm intimately familiar with this setup. And what's very interesting is to hear that our representation of people of color in the adjunct space is entirely different in the tenured faculty space. That's a concern to me as I'm spending more time paying attention to not only the racial makeup of our campus, how it's matching Sonoma County. And I wanted to say thank you, Sarah, for those infographics are particularly useful in digesting the information. The 9-page report I did take a look at, very useful. But the infographics are a fantastic way, another way for our brains to assimilate mathematical information. So using those is a really good idea to go with the report. And I'm very much hoping that those slides go out with the report so that people can use both and choose which ones they want to look at what time. They really complement each other. But again, as a BIPOC woman in adjunct faculty, knowing that I am really in a minority space makes me a little bit more uncomfortable with the representation in my area of faculty. That I'm also curious if in the hiring practices, when we're looking at retention, which is a true issue, if we're looking at our adjunct faculty, not everybody is eligible to become tenured faculty, but I'm sure, as has been previously mentioned, that there are underemployed faculty out there, particularly BIPOC. If we're looking more closely at our adjunct resources, and if we can move them from one category to another, I think that's really something very important to look at. And that's my time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to comment before I close public comments? All right, Brenda, one more time, but keep it short if you will.
Yes, I will, and I thank you. I know this is the third time. I wasn't third time I've spoke, but I forgot when I spoke before, trustee and trustees. I too wanted to mention we've got to get better at in hiring looking at our adjunct faculty that are already teaching. So I'm so appreciative that my colleague Amanda Morrison and now Carrie Rigo, who is an adjunct BIPOC person here, spoke to that. And so I just wanted to add my words to that. And I wanted to also let you know, if you were not aware of it, that in the hiring process for 2020, this last hiring, in December, before I was retired, in that and at the President's Council, I recommended, and maybe Jordan, you were there. I think you were, that if you remember, I recommended that we try to look at, this was a special circumstances with the retirements, that we go to our adjunct faculty first, that we look there. And then if we didn't find, if we didn't hire out of that adjunct pool, then fine, then go out. So I just want us to look at that, because I totally believe that we have great adjunct colleagues teaching for us as adjunct, and particularly BIPOC faculty as well included there. So let's look at how we can do that better. And if we think they're good enough to hire them for adjunct, why aren't we thinking that they are, in quote, good enough to hire for full-time tenured positions? So we could mentor them and support them as well. Thank you once again for letting me speak again.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Anne, and I don't have a last name, so if you could state your last name.
Can you hear me, Jordan?
I can. Is this Anne
Okay,
Donegan?
great. Yeah, this is Anne Donegan. I'm a historian. Thank you so much, President Byrne and the Board of Trustees, for this opportunity. Thank you. I loved hearing Greg Grandison, Brenda Flywishawks. There was so many great voices here. I thank you all. I think what's really an important point to make is that while we have a lot of work to do, I think our numbers of hiring full-time faculty are moving in the right direction. I think a number of my colleagues pointed out that our numbers amongst adjunct faculty are overwhelmingly white. And I think we need to focus on hiring more full-time faculty, because I was an adjunct instructor for 5 years. You'll only teach at places that are in driving distance. And we know that Sonoma County is, I think, 75% white. I think many of our surrounding counties are similarly have demographic data. So recruiting, bringing full-time faculty here who will have better salaries, will want to move here, it's much more likely to get a diverse faculty if we hire more full-time faculty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anne. All right, last call for any public comments, and then we will go ahead and, all right, seeing none, I do have one trustee, Trustee Martinez. Do you have a comment?
Hi, I was going to comment. I waited so long. I was going to ask if, I know that I mentioned this before at another meeting, that we're using at Mendocino, we're using the USC race program to look at just hiring at completely all levels. But if we have done that, and I had mentioned about also doing that internally, which I'm assuming that if we hire adjunct or something like that, we can kind of do it or look into what it looks like to do more of an internal hire than external hire. That's just a random question, but if we look at USC's race and ethnicity program and the ways that they're looking at hiring faculty and retaining faculty. And then my other comment was in regards to, I know that Sarah said that the feedback for folks who have left the exit survey, me being a person that hated doing those things, if we have ever gone back as this people have been really removed from the institution to look for some of that feedback in the sense, because sometimes one of the biggest things is fear of not retaliation, but if they say something that was not nice about the institution, they won't do a survey, or if they do the survey, they will just say the nice things. So kind of thinking about if we go back and see what the actual feedback is, and not necessarily target like our are people of color or BIPOC, but really look at what the data might have said for the last 5 years of people who have left and been removed at least a year and they're secure in another position or whatever, to really get the raw, honest, information. Because somebody asked me why I left a certain place, I most probably will be telling them the truth now, but it's important to really keep going back to those exit surveys to really get more honest opinions about what we're doing right, what we're not doing right, why would somebody stay so short, and also adding to that the possibility of people who might have been let go. Most probably they don't do exit surveys, but if they did, could it be that their performance was not as what we expected, but is it a bias on our own end too? Are we expecting a certain person to do like miracles while we expect another person not to do the same? So those are just thoughts that we as a board might want to consider or think about. But the first one is really a question about are we using outside, very race and ethnic focused trainers and things like that to train us on how to hire and be less biased.
All right, perfect. Sarah, do you, I'll give you just a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm not familiar with that program, but I've made a note of it and we'll look into it to see about working with them.
Yeah, email me and I'll get you the full details. I always forget, 'cause I confuse the last names of the faculty, but I know it's at USC, and one of my friends went through that program there. So at Mendocino, we're using it for all of our hiring.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll reach out to you about it.
Jordan, I got one little quick.
Okay, very quick.
I know we have.
It's already 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. Just a suggestion. After hearing some of these comments, it was great to hear from Greg. I mean, I got to know Greg way back when I first got on the board in 06. He was always an incredible individual, and I'm so glad that he's participating. Just a suggestion that maybe people like Greg and Brenda and stuff do form an advisory committee and to work with some people, because I like what he said, that we just don't want to fall in the same traps we've already done, way back in 06. So just a thought, if they would, like to do something like that and work with people here at the JC as an advisory committee, like we have at Schoen Farm and stuff like that. It's just another way to bounce off ideas. Anyway, just a thought.
All right, perfect. All right, with that, we will adjourn the listening session, and we're gonna go into closed session, and then we'll be back at 4 o'clock for our open session. For the board members, let's go ahead, and it's 3:01 right now. Let's, if you need a break or something like that, we'll get going in the closed session around 3:05 or so. All right. Frank, you're muted.
We're just going to stay on the Zoom.
No,
I think there's a different link though that we
go
to.
That's a different link.
Right?
Yeah.
So we leave this one. Leave this one.
And we'll see you over there.